for joining us today. We'd like to take a few minutes and talk about the Montgomery County Juvenile Court CASA program, which serves a really important service to children in our community. And I'm joined today by JoAnne, Centerville City Council member and CASA volunteer, and Jane Novick, who manages the program. Can you first, Jane, just give us a little overview of the purpose of this program and how it came to be where it is today?
Well, it is a national program, but our program has been in existence for 31 years. Our court is a great supporter of it. And the purpose of it is that when a child comes in with an allegation of abuse or neglect, the judge or magistrate needs a neutral person to help them in a recommendation as what's in the best interest for the children. So they are advocates for the best interest of the children, and they will bring their recommendations to the judge or magistrate to help them make that decision.
I was reading through your website, which has a lot of good information, but makes the very valid point that every adult in a courtroom has a legal representative, and often the child gets left behind. So this fills that gap in a very special way.
Right now, they are not legal representation. They are neutral, because an attorney, we are taught to zealously defend our clients. We are not neutral, although sometimes a child will also get legal representation. But yes, other than the judge or magistrate, there is nobody neutral in that courtroom except for us.
Can you talk about how the program has grown and continues to grow?
Yes, sadly it has grown a lot. There are a lot of children coming in. The opioid epidemic, which hit Montgomery County pretty hard, certainly skyrocketed the number of children coming in. And in fact, in 2018, we helped 429 children, and so far this year we're already up to 471, and it's just been growing and growing. We also have a lot of mental health issues as well, and so parents have really needed that help. We've even been affected by the Oregon shooting, where, unfortunately some children were left without a parent. And so we've been trying to grow to help feed that need. Now, in addition to us, an attorney can act as a guardian ad litem as well. However, they get paid. So when we take that role, we're saving Montgomery County money, because all of my CASAs are volunteers.
And that's a perfect segue to talk to JoAnne sitting to my left here.
Yeah.
You just recently got involved in the program. What inspired you to do that?
It's kind of funny. I was a very young person, I always liked the idea of a guardian angel. That was kind of one of those, esoteric thoughts that I always had. But actually I had a girlfriend back in college who got involved in a program like this in Texas. So it was always at the back of my mind, this would be something I'd like to do. And then, as part of MVCC, there's a council member who was on West Carrollton's council who talked about it a lot, and he's the one that actually brought me back in. So I applied for the position, I guess that was in 2018, so it's been about a year that I did that.
And what sort of training do you have to go through?
Oh, it's a lot of training. This is not a, anybody can do it kind of thing. You apply, I think they probably do a background check, I'm assuming. But we had 6 weeks of training, and that was 1 day a week. We met actually in their offices for 3 hours, and then we also had during the week about, 3 to 6 hours work of homework, that was done online. So a lot of reading, a lot of information that was presented during those meetings. We had a role play. That was also a way to kind of see how these different groups would interact and how you might interact with other children and parents, just to kind of give you an idea what to say, what to ask. And let's see, and then we had the swearing in, which was just very nice. So a lot of experience and training that goes into it.
About how many volunteers were in your class, so to speak?
Wow, we had over 45, I think. So it's a large group. And
that was unusual, though.
Was that an unusual group?
Yes, it's very unusual.
But I'm amazed by the people who do it, because they're people that were in the system themselves, that have been involved in children's services and other capacities in the past, people in law enforcement. So there's a wide variety of volunteers that participate in the program.
I think you were telling me you started with one case, and you've had 2 cases now?
Yeah, I'm on my third.
You're on your third. And what has that experience been like?
Each case is completely unique, and I feel like a novice each time I start a new case. You learn different things with each case. I think the first one I had involved, a young girl. She was 4 at the time, and you don't realize how attached you get to these children. You realize they are just delightful little children, just like your own little children. So you have to, you can't get that close because you're only in there temporarily. You're there to present their best interests. You're there to evaluate how the family interacts and all of the other, attributes that go into your role. But there's an attachment there, and you're going to be, at some point, that child's just going to be managed and cared for by its family, and or whoever is going to be, have custody of that child. So you do kind of have to pull back, and that's a little hard. That was a little tough the first time.
Yeah, sure.
And then my other cases have involved small children, infants actually, and that's a very different discussion. Obviously, they can't talk about what they want or talk about their experiences, so it's more observation and interviewing other people that surround that child.
Jane, can you share what this experience would be like for a child, their first time going through something like this related to the CASA volunteer? When do they meet them? How much time are they spending with them?
Well, CASAs are mandated to see the child a minimum of once a month. And it's very important because many of these children have experienced trauma. Many of them can't trust an adult. And so we are trying to help them with that. We're certainly not mental health therapists, but we're trying to help create a trusting bond, to the fact where there have been some of these children who, when they go off to college, for Christmas time will go to their CASA's home, even though the case is closed, because they've formed such a bond. And not that that's the goal, but the goal is that this child knows there is somebody they can go to. I had even one parent say to me, I'm the only adult she knows that doesn't use drugs. So they will go and visit. We, in fact, get a lot of donations monetarily, but also items. And so the CASA might bring them, like blankets and hats and, school supplies. And that also helps because many times when these children are taken from their home, they are able to take a little, supermarket plastic bag filled with a few things. They don't have much. So that also helps to create that bond with these children. And that's very important because we want them to open up and let us know what's going on, what are their wishes, because that's very important. We don't have to agree or recommend what they want, but we need to be cognizant of their wishes. And we will talk to all the other relevant parties as well. And our big thing is advocating. If they have special needs, we will advocate in the schools. If they need other services, we will advocate for that. And collaboration is key, to work with children's services, to work with other services involved, but yet maintain our own decision in the end. But to do that, you really need the facts. So collaboration is important, speaking to everybody.
And these children range from infants to 18?
No, they can go up to 21.
Okay.
Especially if it's a child with special needs, they can stay till 21.
And how long does the official relationship last? Many months?
Well, it can
Sometimes.
actually be years. We try to close these cases in less time now because children need permanency. And in fact, there is a law that will be coming into play in Ohio. It's already been passed by the federal law, Family First Prevention Services Act. And the idea is permanency for these children. And staying in foster care and aging out is not permanency. That's not a family. So we are really trying to find a relative. If a parent, either the custodial or non-custodial, doesn't work, we are trying to find a relative. If we cannot find a relative, then a family friend. And if not, then we are looking to get the children adopted. We want them to have a family so they are like every other child out there. So even if we realize they're never going back home and they can be adopted, that adoption can take a long time as well. Every case, as JoAnne said, is very different.
The federal government clearly recognizes the importance of what you are doing here in Montgomery County. You were just awarded a $50,000 grant.
Yes.
How does that help? What will that money be used for?
That particular grant is being used to address the opioid crisis here. And so we are trying to recruit more volunteers. We're also hiring another staff person because we are growing and getting so many more people. The hope is that we can be there to have more volunteers to help these children. So that is our goal because, again, it is shown when the child has somebody they can trust and can help them and work with them, that they have a better chance also of mitigating some of that trauma that they've gone through. And the goal is to keep them out of the other side of the court, the delinquency court, where children themselves commit what we would call in the adult world like a criminal act. And of course we don't want to see that with them.
I know that this is different, obviously, from the foster care system, but we've heard that that is a system in crisis because the needs of individual children have increased so much. Do you see that reflected in the cases that you have, that kids are coming in having witnessed much more significant traumas with much maybe greater cases of neglect or abuse?
Well, first of all, we don't have enough foster care. And yes, a lot of children, as you read in the news, a parent is overdosed, so the children get removed. So we definitely are experiencing that. One way the court is trying to combat that is they now have somebody almost doing a genealogy study to try and find family members. It could be a fourth cousin once removed, but they're really trying to keep them out of foster care because it is overtaxed, and find a family member. And it is hard. We've even had some children who have wound up out of the area in foster care, particularly if a child has a lot of significant needs themselves, and there's nobody here that can address those needs for that child.
You brought a calendar with you today.
I did.
Can you talk a little bit about that and how we could get one?
This, we do this every year. We have children from both the city of Dayton and from outside of Dayton, in the suburbs, submit drawings on a topic. This year, this was natural disasters. Unfortunately, we've had a few of those. 14 winners are picked. We have judges from the arts, Dayton Performing Arts, DCDC, Boone Shop, Dayton Art Institute. And so we have, each month has a different picture on it, and then we have a big event, so we're bringing together children from the inner city with the suburbs so that they see they have many shared interests and that art is not just something you do as a break, but it can be a vocation. And we gave them art-related gifts as well, which was really quite wonderful for the children. And so we're giving these out throughout Montgomery County, and they're free. And the point is just to let people know who we are, what we do, and how we're there to help abused and neglected children. And so if anyone is interested, they certainly can contact our office.
Great. And get them for free. That's wonderful. And I see some of the pages you've shown are pretty impressive artwork.
This is a food line after the tornado. We have some interesting ones. This is someone else where the home has been affected by a flood. This is, here's someone else, they have no food or any sources. Here's a tree that fell on a house. It is remarkable. These are first through sixth graders.
It's really good work.
It is, and the gifts are great. One child who got one of the free passes from the Boone Shop said she got to go to the Boone Shop once with her family, but they couldn't afford to go again, and now she was going to take her grandparents.
Oh,
I know.
Isn't that awesome?
It is. It's wonderful.
That's why I love what I do.
If more people want to do what you do, how can they get involved?
They can call at 937-225-5491. That's our main number.
And JoAnne, you said this is not for everyone.
Yeah, I don't think it is for everyone. I mean, you do have to, there's obviously some paperwork involved as well as keeping track of what you do and all the contacts that you make. You have to be able to be objective. You have to be able to look at people without judgment. That's not always easy either. And you really have to focus on advocating for that child. So, there's other family members that may need assistance. You can certainly recommend that assistance to them. But usually they have involvement with the caseworker from Children's Services, and that's another person to work with. People who have a love of children, who are willing to do the work. It's not something you volunteer to do and then you don't do it, or you don't do it well. And then just, there are rules, so you have to follow those rules as well.
What would you say the time commitment is for you?
It tends to ebb and flow. If you have a hearing coming up, there's a lot of work, all the, that you're doing maybe that week, you might, or that month, you might work a lot more hours than you would in what I would call a monitoring week. If there isn't a hearing, then you're into what I would call the monitoring, where you just go and meet with the families or the other, you can meet with counselors and school counselors and all variety of people that interact with the child. I'd say, I probably, in a quiet month, I'm probably maybe 4 to 6 hours is all. If it's a very busy month with hearings, it might be more like, 20 to 30 hours. It's not a huge time commitment.
How can people get involved in terms of the qualifications needed, the process? I know you said to contact you to start.
The classes are at night. They're usually 5:30 to 8:30, and I believe they're going to be Tuesday nights this week, and there's one Saturday when we do the role play. You have to be 21. You do not have to be an attorney. A lot of people think that. In fact, some of my best ones are former educators, social workers, people who are in the system. They have experiences that are directly related to a lot of the cases that we're dealing with, so they actually are tremendous help. But one of our star ones was a housewife, so and they'll just go through that training. And Judge Capizzi, who does the swearing in, is on the National CASA board. He loves this. This is just such an important thing. So we're very lucky. We're having tremendous support in our court.
Are volunteers who call you ever concerned that what they're doing might be dangerous?
Yes, and everyone has a different threshold. So we always tell them, if you want someone to go with you, either staff will, or we tell them to go with a caseworker. We never tell someone you don't have to worry, because again, we have to respect everyone's feelings. So that's never a problem. And there are some times where we'll even tell them you don't even need to go anymore to see somebody, or maybe you do it on the phone. So we absolutely take that into consideration, but I will tell you, we've never heard of an actual safety problem. But still, as I said, we will take that seriously.
And you mentioned some of them, but what are the other supports for a CASA volunteer from your side?
Many. Well, first of all, every CASA gets a coordinator. So JoAnne has somebody that she can go to who reviews the reports, who she can bounce questions off of. And we also have a staff attorney. Then there's me as well. And also, sometimes we have peer mentors for some of our new volunteers. We also do lunches 4 times a year, so CASAs can meet other CASAs, and they can bounce ideas off of a more experienced CASA as well. We also do trainings. Besides the pre-service, throughout the year, we're doing, at least one a month, training on. Someone will say, I'd like to know a little more about adoption. We'll bring somebody in. We've done simulations like on domestic violence in teenagers, where you become that teenager and you find it at the end what happens to you. I mean, we did Bridget's Path, but just you name the topic, we will bring in a training. So there's tons, plus we have a resource library as well. Or we'll tell them about trainings, in the county, in other places. So there's a ton of support.
And not to put you on the spot, but can you think maybe anecdotally of a case where, or I'm sure you can think of many, where a CASA volunteer truly made an impact and a difference that lasted throughout the lifetime of that child?
Oh, absolutely. One of our volunteers, I can think of tons, but one of them, it was a little girl, severely disabled, and she was in a place where she was basically just left in the crib. And they said, she's never going to be able to do anything. And this volunteer every day would come and bring an instrument, that a toy that played music, and she would do that over and over again. And when she saw that the child was not being treated properly, she complained. She brought enough people. Finally, that child got moved to a foster home where they really care. And this child, who is not expected to do anything, is making tremendous gains. Not to say she'll ever be a typical child, but she is doing so much, and I believe she might even be a child who's going to be adopted as well. Yes.
That is a tremendous lasting change.
Oh my gosh, yes.
How wonderful.
Yes.
And you feel through the cases that you've had so far, have you built, I know you said you have to kind of have that space, but you've built these relationships that make a difference.
Oh, you do. You talk about Christmas coming along, you're like, oh, I'd like to go shopping, but well, I'll go to the CASA office, see what they have first.
Right.
Because the families don't necessarily want you to be that involved either. I mean, they have their own lives and their own issues. So, that is always a consideration. But I have to say, my coordinator has just been wonderful. And there are many times I've bounced things off of him and just asked questions, because you run into different things with different cases. And there are so many other services available that you may not be really aware of or understand the extent of those services. So he's been wonderful. He came with me on one visit. It was the first time I visited this one family that I'd been having a little difficulty connecting with. And I'm really glad he went. It certainly smoothed the way for me. I was a little concerned, so very helpful. Just makes it so easy.
Good. A final thought from you about the program.
I just think it's a wonderful program, and I really promote it for anyone who has that passion or interest in advocating and serving children. There's a great need in our community, not just for CASAs, but for foster parents, and I've seen some of that firsthand, and I just hope people will look in their hearts and consider it.
Jane, a final thought from you.
There are many different ways to help these children. If you have the time and the inclination to volunteer, that's certainly one way. If you can't, we're always very happy to get donations of items, or certainly money to purchase items, to bring to the children. As JoAnne said, we have our CASA store where you shop for free, and you can bring these children things. And it's funny, they don't ask for toys. They ask for things like school supplies, blankets, hats, gloves, items like that. And again, that helps with that, making them feel like somebody cares about them. So there are many different ways that people can help to make a difference. And when we help these children, we're helping our community, because they will go out to be productive members, healthy members of society. So to me, this is a win-win for everybody out there.
Jane, thank you so much. You've made it clear that the program is very approachable. People can come get more information and just learn if it's right for them.
Correct.
Thank you for joining us today. Jane Novick, CASA Program Manager, and JoAnne Rao, a CASA volunteer and Centerville City Council member. Thank you guys for being here. And if you're interested in getting more information, please reach out to the juvenile court system and the CASA program. You can find out more online as well. Thanks for joining us.